Hello and welcome. And I'm Alexis Moon, and this is Trish Rock. And we are having sparking conversations and interview. So Trish Rock, thank you so much for coming. She is the best-selling author of The Peace Process. She is a psychic and holistic counselor, peace coach, and mentor. So thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for asking me, and I'm looking forward to this conversation and sparking some ideas and inspiration to anyone who's listening.
Yay. Beautiful. So, what I'd love to know about, I know you've had such an interesting life, and there's a few things that you've touched on it in your book, which is really fascinating, which I will finish reading. Only because I'm just one step at a time, got lots of things on the plate. Anyway, what I'd love to know is a bit of the backstory of how did Trish Rock get from, growing up and the little stepping points. How did you decide, holistic counseling and being psychic? Well, you don't really choose that. That kind of chooses you, doesn't it?
You start believing that you are rather than choosing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that is the belief, isn't it? Actually
Yeah,
accepting it.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I guess I can start back in my teen years. Uh, my dad left when I was early teens, and I kind of got um, down the wrong path then, and I used to just go out with my brother then from the age of 13 or 14, and we'd go out drinking and drugs and all the rest of it. And I think I started smoking at 11, and all of these things through my teenage years, but it didn't consume me as so much as to stop my creativity, which was interesting. I think it was just a really great numbing system for those times where I just didn't want to really look at any of that. Um, then I fell pregnant at 18 with my beautiful boy, and got married. Then I was divorced at 21, and I ended up going on a little bit of a downhill slide then, and really got in with the wrong people for a little while. And I got to a point actually at one stage where I had my son was looked after, but I had like this 3-day bender on speed. And I said to myself on that third day, I'm like, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. And so there's always been this something inside me driving me. And that's why I'll talk about purpose. But, I'm here to, I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to deliver a message. And there's always just been this voice inside me. It's like, keep going, move away from that, keep going, move away from that, keep going. And after that 3-day bender, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to die if I don't leave this. I did leave all of that, and then I went and found myself a job, and just kind of got on with my life. And kind of about a year later, I bought a business. So I was then a business owner,
Wow.
right? And I'm like, wow, okay. So that was probably a couple of years later. So at 24, so I was in salons, fingernail salons. I've done that since I was 17. It was one of my first real jobs. Anyway, so I was working there, and she had it up for sale, so I bought it. So there was myself and two other people, and I employed someone else, and the salon was just too small. So then we expanded into this massive big thing, and we were, one of the biggest and best salons in Canberra at that time. I had probably 4 staff, and we used to win all of the Australia-wide competitions.
Wow.
So we were really good, and I really excelled in those years, actually. because I was able to express my creativity.
Mhm.
I had a salon full of people. We were all really good at what we did. And so we were always fully booked 6 months, 12 months ahead. So I always had this constant stream of money. I got to do my creativity and do what I loved. And it was actually a really nice time in my life. But then I moved. I got married again and I moved. And things just started to change. And I was really sad actually about leaving my salon. It was like my baby.
Yeah.
I think I went and disappeared for the day and just went and cried somewhere, and everyone was looking for me. Where is she? And I ended up I was at the salon. It was empty. It was at the salon, just sitting there crying, like, oh, my baby. But it really started me on, another journey. And I think all of us have chapters in our life,
Mhm.
and we can really be sad about leaving one chapter behind. But if we don't, then the next adventure where we're going to expand won't show up.
Mm.
So it's sad but exciting at the same time. And so then I had salons on and off in the other town that I moved to, in between some other stints of different jobs in real estate and other things. Then I got divorced again, and I went downhill again.
Mm.
Relationships just weren't my forte, unfortunately. But then I got back up on my feet again. I bought a house. I created my own home salon, and that was doing really well. And then about a year later, when my daughter had finished year 12, I was like, you know what, I'm done here. I'm done here. And I was in a real victim mode at that point, and I was blaming everyone around me for my misery.
Mm.
And I ended up selling the house, selling the business, some of my stuff, and I actually left that state and moved away from all these people that were making my life miserable, right?
Mm.
And I ended up down at the South Coast. And about a year later, I'm sitting there by myself, still miserable. And that's when things shifted, because I knew that it was up to me. I have to take 100% responsibility for my life. It's got nothing to do with anybody else.
Mm.
And that's actually when I started writing the book, because I was writing down my personal development story.
Yeah.
And so 2014, I started writing that book. I did actually write a book before that for the salon industry, which is still available. That was my first book. This was I've written a few in between then. So this is kind of like my eighth book. But the other ones were all about the business I was in. This one's more personal. This one's where I've come from and how I've overcome some things. So in that last decade, things have really shifted for me. But I have also gone through the journey. Sometimes people can see you, on socials or whatever, and think, oh, she's got it all together. But I can guarantee you that I don't.
I don't think anybody does.
No one has it all together all the time.
Mhm.
And as soon as I started taking responsibility for how I felt and where I wanted my life to go, that's when things changed. Um,
Would you say that's when your creativity kind of came back into flow? Or is that kind of
Creativity,
always on the simmer?
it's always been in flow. Creativity's always been in flow, because I feel like that's a distraction sometimes for me.
Hmm.
I feel like that's sometimes a distraction. It makes me feel good. Let me make something. Let me
Yeah.
create something. Let me write something. It
Mm.
makes me feel good in the moment, but it doesn't mean my life's on track. So, one of the biggest things for me has been finances.
Mm.
I've just had such a poverty consciousness
Yeah.
for so long. Look, even back in the salon days when I was just constantly having cash flow, it didn't mean that I didn't have that poverty consciousness.
No, because they
because
come in and go out.
it all just went straight back
Yeah.
out. I've got nothing to show for it, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until it was, yeah, probably 2000 and it was 2014 actually, um, that you know, uh, I was working a business. I had an app business at that point. I was creating apps for people, and I also was working, and I still got to the point where I couldn't pay my rent,
Mm.
and I was just devastated. You know, you just feel like such a failure
Mm.
because you're working really hard and
Yeah.
you still can't get out of this mess. And I ended up having to leave the South Coast and I moved back to Canberra and I had to go with my sister for a little while, which I'm very grateful for, but not something I'm proud of.
Mm.
And, you know, really made me feel it was a bit of a low actually. But from that low, then you bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
And this is life, isn't it? We have the highs and then we're kind of halfway and we're like, oh, this doesn't feel good, but it's not rock bottom yet.
Yeah.
And then you get to rock bottom and you're like, there's no way else but up here. And that's when the real lessons kind of start coming. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting ride actually. But about 3 years ago, so I had the book was kind of there in my computer. The manifest was there,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept going to it. I'm like, oh, it's not ready yet. Oh, it's not ready yet. Or I wasn't ready for the, you know, judgment that might come because, you know, you
Mm.
put something out there to the world and people criticize it. So
Yeah.
I wasn't ready sometimes. The book wasn't ready sometimes. And then it was 4 years ago. I was still in this place of, you know, universe, I keep doing these things. I keep doing these courses. I keep learning. I keep creating. I keep doing this, but everything I want is still over there.
Mm.
I'm here and it's still over there. And I kept reaching and I kept feeling in lack.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hit another kind of rock bottom and went to bed this night and just said, universe, you've got to give me something here. Something's got to give. Show me something I can do
Yeah.
or be to stop feeling in this lack.
Mm.
And that's when the 5 steps of the peace process came then overnight.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, okay, what's this? Let me try it.
Yep.
And I tried it, and 8 weeks later, I pretty much got rid of my poverty mindset. I'm like, wow, okay, I now have this abundance mindset. And that was the last little key to the book. And so I added the process into the book.
Mm-hmm.
And
Voila.
that was the result.
Yeah, beautiful. Isn't it funny how quite often as humans we have to hit a rock bottom or a space where it feels like there's nowhere out at all, and then it's like miracles happen, but there is
Yeah,
still an action there. There's still something that we have to do. We can't just sit there. Otherwise, many people just wallow and they'll stay there. But you
yeah.
have the choice to go, well, if this isn't working, okay, universe, what else show me? And
Show me something.
it's almost like this plea or this almost surrendering and go, I've done everything I can possibly think of, do, you know, just help me out. And then magic
Yeah, yeah.
happens.
It really does. But yeah, there has to be an action. Um, and it has to be a an action that comes from a place of calm, not from a place of fear. You know,
Mm.
when I sold everything and moved away from that city, that was from fear.
Mm.
That wasn't, that was a reaction,
Yeah.
you know, and I can really see that now. But when you're taking a step forward from a place of, okay, I'm done with that, show me the next step, that's really where the power is. But you know, I was in that blame and victimhood for a long time. I didn't really know it, but it really showed up in those couple of years there. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. It was really showing itself loud and clear, but it took me a little while to get the message.
Yeah, but we don't know what we don't know. And as we're evolving and growing as, beings, it's almost like there's these key turning points. And sometimes we feel like, oh, we might have missed the boat, or, maybe look back, oh, I wish I'd done this or that. Regret, it doesn't help us. Hindsight doesn't really help for a lot of things. You just got to go, okay, this is where I'm at. This is the experience. What else is possible, and move forward.
Absolutely. It's about being in the moment. Yeah, it's really about being in the moment. It's the only place a decision can be made.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you're coming from fear of what has happened in the past or what you might think might happen in the future. So it has to be a present moment without the reaction. And sometimes decisions are also made to avoid something we don't want. So they're not good decisions either. Like, I'm going to do this because I don't want to be broke.
Yeah.
That's not a good decision. It might feel okay at the time, but it's not, because you're only making that decision to avoid something. So, it has to come from a place of, as you said, this is where I am right now. What could I do right now to take a step forward? Whether it is an action, whether it is doing something with your energy, shifting a mindset, writing in your journal. It doesn't have to be a big action step. And, that's the other thing when I'm working with clients, so many of us, including me, we get 20 steps ahead. We're like, okay, I need to change my life. I'm going to do this. And then in the head, it's like, right, so I need this and this and this and this and this. And then you get to the 20th step and it just scares the life out of you. And you're like, oh, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then you don't take the first step.
Yep.
But if you can take that first little step, by the time you get to the 20th step, it'll just be another first step. And, it's really
organic.
Yeah, and just bring that down. My audio book, the audio version of my book has just been released, and there was a lot of steps to get there. I didn't know a lot of them until I got there.
Yeah.
But if I had have known, it probably wouldn't have stopped me years ago. It might have, but it would have overwhelmed me a little bit. So I really was better just to go, right, okay, what do I need to do first? Oh, record it. Okay, let's do that. What do I need to do next? Oh, this. Okay, let's do that. If I had have known, all the steps, that might have scared me into not doing it.
Yeah.
So I think it's really training your mind to be in the moment. What do I need to do right now? And then that's also a great way to really uncover what your mind is really saying, because we have a lot of fears and a lot of inbuilt stories. One of the things over the last couple of years that I really discovered was my fear of rejection. And, that was specifically from a child, actually after my sister was born. And so my fear of rejection started then. It was totally perceived in my own mind because it wasn't true, like all of our stories.
Yeah.
But I had to work really hard to avoid rejection. That was my story. And that is what got proven over and over again. But because I had that, I'm trying to not be rejected. That's the story that kept getting proven. Because that was the loudest voice. I have to work really hard so I don't get rejected. And then you work really hard and you get rejected.
It's like anything that's, what we consider negative stories, and the whole mindset, especially money, is such a big theme for probably 99% of the people on the planet. And because, those that are working on it are aware of their stories and mindset, we still get tripped up. And it's almost like you've got these other layers to go through and go, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. By doing that, I was pushing that away. And even though you're like, oh, I need this or I want this, and the language, and we don't realize that we're actually going, no, universe, I'm fine. I don't need
Yeah.
it right now.
The language is incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm,
And especially with money, like we ask for more money, but then we don't look. Like you might find some money on the pavement. Someone might buy you a coffee. You might get parking for free just randomly. I mean, we don't look at those things and go, oh, well, there's extra money. Thanks, universe.
yeah.
At the end of the day, we're just like, well, no extra money came in, right? And then we get cranky with the universe. So, and it's the same with relationships and health and everything. Our language is really important to watch what we're saying.
Yeah, and it's that inner story. It's not always even fully conscious because a lot of the stories that we carry through right from childhood onwards, we're not fully aware of what we're doing until someone might put a mirror up or
Yeah.
we're reacting so hard to something, and you might have a moment go, hang on, that wasn't actually a big deal. Why am I getting so upset, angry, frustrated, whatever that emotion is? What's actually going on here? And then you start going, oh my goodness, I see it differently now. And it's the matter of that perspective, and changing your perspective. You don't even really understand. It's almost like as soon as you shift, you don't know who you could like. You don't even understand the person that you used to be because you've changed so much.
Exactly. And you can't force those shifts. You can be aware of it and kind of force yourself forward,
Mm.
but until you're actually aware of it. I'll tell you a story that happened at one stage. I was going out with this person, and yeah, look, it was kind of going downhill fast. Anyway, we're out on the lake paddle boating. I don't know if you've ever been paddle boating. We're in the
No, but I know about it. Yeah.
yeah, and we were paddle boating. No, sorry, we were canoeing. We were
Ah.
canoeing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went off ahead, and he was fussing at the shore trying to get more photos of himself and all the rest of it. And then he was kind of across the other side of the lake. And come on, because I don't know what he was doing, looking at the bridge or something. Anyway, I felt like this is our only day out, and you find the bridge more interesting than me. Like, so I was really
Mm.
triggered.
Yeah.
I'm going, hey, I'm over here. And he yelled back, like, oh, okay, no, got really even more triggered.
Ah.
And it was in that moment that I thought, you know what? Why am I attracting this disrespect?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I attracting this disrespect? And I knew that I wasn't respecting myself
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we get.
Yep.
Whatever we think about ourselves is what shows up. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not to be mean or nasty to us, it's to show us, oh, I could improve on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, everything ended. But it was a really great lesson to me. Like, you know what? I need to respect myself a little bit more. So I worked on that. And I really haven't had those disrespectful situations again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it really showed me how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy, but it's
Yeah.
simple, but it's really a case of you've got to have that awareness, because I could have gone straight into blame again. How dare you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And I could have spoken about it for years. Oh, this nasty person did this. But it was an absolute blessing for me because I was able to shift that respect level that I had for myself,
Yeah.
um, which had been poor my whole life, which is why obviously I was out there drinking and carrying on. The level of respect I had for myself was really low.
Yeah.
Um, so people and experiences show up to really kind of make us aware of, oh, okay, thank you, universe, or thank you to that person. Even though
Thanks for the lesson.
I feel very grateful that you've shown up in my life. You can go out of my life now, but you've given me the lesson.
Yeah. And it is funny because people come and go all the time. And sometimes people leave and you don't actually know why. And it's actually, I've had that a few times, and there's nothing wrong, nothing that you understand. And I had an incident when I was a lot younger, and I then reconnected with that person about, oh, probably about 10 plus years later. And I
Mhm.
found out it was a miscommunication. She thought I was really angry with her, and I thought she was angry with me. And it
Oh,
was just this whole thing. And we weren't actually angry. But it was so
crazy. Mhm.
interesting because there were so many different factors involved. And then to actually be able to reconnect and go, actually, this is what we both perceived. And that kind of closed the that because it was kind of a question that had been sitting around in my energy
Yeah.
and my head for a long time. And
Mm.
then that kind of just released it. I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Um, and like I don't really have much contact, but that's an option there if I want. We're just in
Yeah.
totally different worlds, but it's really interesting. I just,
It closed a door, and it would have come at the perfect time. Would have come at exactly the right time for
yeah.
you in your growth and in your expansion.
Yeah, it's just I find it fascinating because there's other people that they leave and you go, why? Why? I mean, they weren't like there was another incident before that where I had people that were not healthy to be around, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared. I was like, it was a good thing, and I'm grateful, but my head was like, why did that happen? But I
Oh,
also know that they weren't meant to be. I received the lessons and they were not meant to be part of my path. So I went, okay, thank you. But isn't that
yeah,
fascinating?
because as soon as our energy shifts, those
Hmm.
people can't see us anymore. It's just really interesting. Yeah,
Yes.
because you're on a different vibration.
Yeah.
So they won't be aware of you. They'll be off looking for their own vibration, as we do, as we expand and we grow.
Hmm.
It doesn't make us better or worse or
Just
whatever,
different.
but we're on a different frequency.
Hmm.
It's like, the old example of the radio frequency.
Hmm.
Just because you're on this frequency doesn't mean that the other one doesn't exist. It
Hmm.
does exist, but you're not hearing it.
Yeah.
And that happens with people as well. Uh, and that's really a lot of the issues with relationships and clients I see that are trying to attract somebody different. What can I do to attract someone different? Do I go to a different place, whatever? And I'm like, no, you got the same energy. It doesn't matter where you go. You've got that antenna out. I've got this energy, and you're going to attract the person matching that.
Yep.
So all you can do is change your energy.
Hmm.
You want to attract someone different, you need a different energy.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And that's once again, that's coming. It's not simple. I mean, simple but not easy.
Simple but not easy. I know. And
Simple but not easy.
it's like with your health and dietary changes. There's so many things, but there's so much information and you can get lost. But then for me, I've turned to intuitive eating. I
Yeah.
don't do diets, have not done diets in years and years and years. And in the last few years, my whole way of eating has shifted, but I haven't pushed. And it's
Yeah.
just been very organic. And then suddenly things just shift and go, oh, something I could have only dreamed about doing, say, 5 years ago, I'm now doing. And it's so easy. It's actually easy now. It used to
Yeah.
be just simple, but now it's simple and easy.
And easy. But where you are now, if you had have gone to that place in your mind all those years ago,
Mhm.
it would have felt too hard for you.
Oh, it did because I was aware of it for quite a few years. But I had these stories of like, it's too hard. I can't eat that. I don't like that. All the stories. And then you slowly just kind of, why don't you just try it? Or just, what about this? And
Yeah.
instead of going into these, rigid dogmas, you just go, oh, I wonder if I just tried this. I don't have to commit to anything, which is why I do intuitive eating. I don't commit to anything because every single day is different, and my body will actually tell me what is it that you actually desire today, and not judge it. And judgment has been one of the most massive things. And as soon as you start chipping away that and letting that go, oh my goodness, so many things have just opened up. I
Um,
honestly, it blows my mind. And I can't
yeah,
believe how happy I am. But
there
anyway,
has
enough
to be
about
that
me.
there has to be that level of okayness with whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
There has to be that level of okayness. If
And that's that
you
peace.
feel like grabbing something that other people say is bad for you, then if you're going to eat it knowing in your head, oh, this is bad for me, I'm going to eat it
Mm,
anyway, it is going to be bad for you. If you eat it with okayness, like, you know what, I just feel like that now and
yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Mhm.
Just brings you that peace and that calm, and maybe you won't eat it again. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, there needs to be that calmness about it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I've been able to release so many things out of my life, and I've just got such an addictive nature, and since I've over the last 3 or 4 years since I've been doing my process, because you can just keep doing it. It's
Mhm.
kind of like rinse and repeat. Just do it
Yeah.
once and just do it on whatever comes up, because we can't tackle the whole thing, right? You can't change your whole life with one process, but I'm going to change this part today. I'm going to
Mm.
change this part this week. But, I've been able to, I don't drink anymore. Um, there's other things that have happened. I haven't got that rejection belief that really, I had some coaching with that, and just working on my self value and my worthiness, that kind of thing. Um, and now, and it's really interesting how this process works, because my latest persona that I'm tuning into
Mm.
on this journey, because I believe we're a personality, right? But we're made up of all these different personas. And so you might have one persona that achieves something really easily. You might have another one that has a whole lot of old beliefs and old things. So that's why some people really excel in some areas of life
Yeah.
and other areas they don't.
Mm.
And so we work on the persona. So I've done a couple of processes because I'm ready to get into a relationship. And over the last 12 months, I've done a few different ones on lovability, worthiness, value, that kind of thing, which has had a knock-on effect in many areas of my life. But at the beginning of this year in my private group, we all went through the process again, and I chose to become coupled Trish. That was the name of my persona that I
Mhm.
was coming into. And I really feel that now, even though this person hasn't shown up physically, I already feel like I'm a couple. I feel that energy already. So, but it's had these amazing other side effects, which I have to tell you. So my whole diet changed just
Mhm.
out of the blue. And so for years and years, I'm like, oh, well, I'm now in my late 50s. It's all over. And I'm going to be stuck at this weight forever. And,
Yeah.
I can't fix this and I can't fix that. And the doctor tells me it's a downhill run and blah, blah,
Oh,
blah.
goodness. Yeah.
But I started this process and became this persona and embodied that. And all of a sudden, I wanted to change how I ate.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because I wasn't doing the work on my diet. I wasn't
Mhm.
doing the work on becoming healthier. But the persona of coupled Trish would have done that.
Mhm.
Persona, if being in a relationship, I would be doing that.
Mhm.
And so over the last 6 or 7 weeks, I'm off sugar. I'm just not addicted to that either anymore. That was my last thing that I was addicted to.
I hear.
Oh, over my life, I've given up cigarettes. I've given up a couple of different types of drugs, alcohol. Sugar was my last
That
thing.
your hello mirror. I gave up sugar 2 days from Tuesday, fully just gone. Haven't
Yeah,
had carbs, and I'm just off. And I had some honey, a little bit of honey, a couple of days. But today I was like, no, I'm not even doing honey because it is still sugar. I've had
yeah.
no sugar and I feel amazing. Isn't it just, it's so cool.
It's amazing. Well, I dropped 6 kilos pretty much, within the month. And look, it wasn't easy those first couple of weeks for sure. But now it is. I'm just in a different habit of what I feel like eating, and my arthritis is kind of cleared up. I dropped that weight. I have more energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from the inside now, not from sugar that I need to have. And sugar isn't just what we see. There's sugar in everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't have anything processed now. It's all just um, uh, what do we say? Anything around the outside of the supermarket.
Yeah. Yeah.
I very rarely go down any aisles now because I don't need anything.
And do you find that it was more of the habit?
So yes.
Sorry, I think my internet went a bit funny. Like the sugar
Yeah,
was
look,
more of
some
a
of it,
habit,
some
not a
of it's
craving.
habitual.
Yeah.
Some of it's habitual, but I think on a deeper level, I was craving it, which then made it a habit. So, I started becoming very big on 2-minute noodles because I just thought it's so easy for lunch. I'm just going to go and grab some 2-minute noodles, blah, blah, blah. So much stuff in there. In them.
Yeah.
But just the carbs, I mean, it just turns into sugar in your body. And I loved honey. I was having a lot of honey every day, and that's really beautiful for you, but it's full of glucose. So once again, your body's feeding on that, and any fat that you eat that's on your body just gets bigger and bigger because your body's not using the fat for energy. It's using all the sugar and the glucose and the carbs. And so just that education I had in that course I did for this eating program has really changed things for me. And I go to grab some things now and I know it's a habit. I was addicted to chocolate too many years ago. I would eat a block of chocolate a night. And then all of a sudden my body rejected it. And I really couldn't leave the house before 10. Because if I was stuck out on the road somewhere and needed the toilet, I was in big trouble. And that's when I'm like, okay, the body's telling me now, I've got to give that up. And that was kind of easy. But it's interesting how your mind works, because then at the shops, I'd buy a mango or I'd buy something healthy to eat instead of the chocolate. And then I'd be complaining because the mango would be like $5. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You just spent $6 on chocolate every night. Why can't you spend $5 on a mango? Like, our mind just plays these games. And so I think it's just, as you said, it's about being in the moment. What am I feeling now?
Emotions are massive.
Yeah. What am I intuitively being told, or what messages are coming through right now? If I can just breathe through any reactivity, I can just breathe through that. Okay, what do I truly want to do now? What's my next action that's not coming from fear? And it might be to do nothing. It might be just to sit with it for 24 hours and then decide.
Yeah.
So, but it is that awareness and taking that 100% responsibility for your life, because it's happening for you, not to you. And it's such a big thing to believe that when life's not going well.
Yeah.
It's a really big thing to believe that, because it's easier to blame the external.
Yeah.
when you can bring it back to, oh, okay. And it's not saying, well, I'm to blame for that. It's more of a question of what is there to learn from that that I can now shift so I don't have to experience it again.
Yeah.
That's the better question. It's just that self-inquiry.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness, what a great conversation. We could talk forever, actually. I could. So what I would love to do wrapping up is you can spruik your book, please. Show your book.
Fantastic. Yay.
The Peace Process.
The Peace Process. You can find that on my website at trishrock.com. You can also find it on Amazon if you just search Trish Rock. It's available in all countries.
I did.
And you can also find it on Audible if you just look for Trish Rock, and you'll see the cover immediately. It's on a whole heap of other platforms too. So I guess if you just do a search, it'll come up somewhere.
Yeah, beautiful.
But it's a really easy flowing book, and it really just helps you. It's got the 5 steps in it, but it really overall just helps you really tune into who you really are without all those stories, without all those other perceptions you've been carrying around. And I'll just quickly tell you the 5 steps. So what happened with this was the epiphany that I woke up with was that the last step needed to be the first. So I was doing all the work, all the dissolving the fears and the self-sabotage and everything else. But the person I wanted to be was at the end. That was the final step. But that's what kept me in lack. That's what kept me reaching. So that comes first. We get clarity on what part of your life you want to change, what persona that would be if you had that change already. And then we go to a parallel reality where you're already living that, because we are living anything you want in life. We're already living it somewhere. So we go to that reality. You get to experience from the eyes of that persona. Doesn't matter whether it's male or female, whatever, the year, it doesn't matter about any of that. It's experiencing life as that persona. And then we bring all that back, and then we do the work. We talk about forgiveness, acceptance, self-sabotage, connection, really connecting in with who you really are. And then step 5 is where it all comes together, where things actually start showing up in reality. And it's about observing them and being aware of them so that you can stay in that feeling of that persona. And things change really quickly for some people.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's a great process, but really good book as well.
Yes.
It's got a lot of stuff in there about becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful. I can't wait to dig
thank you
into
for
it.
having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for coming on. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah, it's been lovely to talk to
you. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. I'm just going to stop. So thank you. And as trishrock.com, you can find her, and she's got some amazing things. She got some amazing programs. Have a look. Check her out. Thank you. Bye.